Anthony getting close to Ellie drove me crazy. I interfered under the table, but she still agreed to the date. Zoe blackmailed me with inviting Anthony to the trip, so I switched from refusing to joining to keep her. Ellie Brown has been mine ever since the moment we got tangled up. That thought feels like a red-hot branding iron, searing itself into my mind. Every single minute of the past 48 hours has left me tormented by this extreme possessiveness, almost as if I could rip myself out of these chaotic thoughts. At first, Jack's plan to introduce Ellie to his friends was just a tiny thorn lodged in my heart. But within a mere 24 hours, that thorn had grown wildly into a vine, tightly coiling around my throat until even my breath carried a sharp, irritating pain, annoyed at him for meddling, and even more annoyed that anyone would dare lay eyes on her. Yesterday afternoon, my brother made a special trip to tell me that Ellie had agreed to meet this guy named Anthony, and tonight they were even planning to formally introduce them to each other. In that instant, I lost all control. Rage surged inside me like molten lava, impossible to contain no matter how hard I tried. This uncontrolled irritation was driving me absolutely crazy. Last night, I spent nearly 3 hours at the gym, and this morning I went on a mad 6-mile run. Now I'm exhausted like a dog. Yet the restlessness and possessiveness in my heart haven't eased up one bit. That damn sense of helplessness only makes me even more furious. Standing outside Zara and Jack's door, I've tried several times to turn around and walk away, but my feet feel as heavy as lead, refusing to budge. I can't leave. If I do, it'll be as if I'm handing Ellie right over to that man named Anthony, giving up something that belongs to me. There's no way I'd ever let that happen. I don't want to admit it, but I can't fool myself, I've become obsessively possessive of Ellie. Her smile, her voice, even the way she touches me, they're all meant to belong exclusively to me. But deep down, I know this isn't love, it's a crude, pure obsession, as if she were born just to be mine. I know this kind of thinking is awful, even sick, but I can't help it. Just the thought that she might be with someone else makes my heart ache as if it's being squeezed tight, and immediately, I'm hit with an even stronger sense of irritation. What am I supposed to do if that Anthony really is serious about marriage and starting a family, and Ellie happens to fall for it? The moment I consider this possibility, I feel so frustrated that I want to smash something. All I can offer her is a casual relationship, a relationship that's all I'm capable of giving. I've imagined countless times how I'd approach her, but every single time, the outcome is the same, she'd yell at me fiercely and then completely cut me off. This constant worry and feeling of helplessness is driving me crazy. Damn it! All I can do is pray that Anthony won't be interested in her, but as soon as that thought pops into my head, I quickly squash it. Ellie's just too good, any man would be drawn to her. This self-soothing notion only makes me even more agitated. Any sane man would be drawn to her. Her body is flawless, her face utterly captivating, and her figure, oh, damn it. She's unbearably sexy. But maybe after just a few minutes of conversation, he'd discover her sharp tongue and prickly demeanor, or be intimidated by her intelligence and keen insight. That's right, maybe the best thing to do is keep them completely apart. Otherwise, I really don't know what I might end up doing. The mere thought of losing control fills me with such restlessness. In fact, the only thing I have over Anthony is that Ellie has already belonged to me. She knows I can give her the ultimate pleasure, fulfilling every single one of her desires. That's my only leverage, and I've got to hold on to it tight. She can deny it all she wants, but her body's reactions won't lie, she craves me too. Of that, I'm absolutely certain. And that's my only comfort, the tiny bit of solace that helps ease the restlessness and unease gnawing at my heart. Taking a deep breath, I reached out and rang the doorbell. The house was brightly lit, and Jack quickly opened the door. That bastard had a huge grin on his face, and as he hugged me, I seriously wanted to punch him right in the face. I stared at him, my heart filled with irritation and suspicion. Was he really trying to push me away from Ellie, or was he just hoping to humiliate me, forcing me to admit my obsessive fixation on her? Either way, it made me sick to my stomach. If it was the latter, he was bound to be disappointed. "Come on in, everyone's in the kitchen," he said, walking ahead of me and leading the way. "Is everyone here? Just Anthony is missing." He turned his head, flashing a smug smile that made me want to rip his eyes out. I tried hard not to let my growing frustration show. So what brings me here, then? I asked, maybe thinking about the kids will lift my mood a bit. Are you talking about my daughter, or, cut the crap, I warned. Lately, I finally figured it out, my friends just love watching me get all emotional and wound up whenever Ellie's around. It really bothers me to be treated like some kind of joke. I'll go fetch my little princess so you can finally meet her. The last time I saw her, she was clinging to Ellie's neck. Every time Sophia sees her, she just can't bring herself to let go. Ellie likes kids? I find it hard to believe. But as soon as I picture her holding a child with such tenderness, my possessive feelings only grow stronger. Her gentleness is meant for me alone. This thought makes me even more agitated, because deep down, I know I don't have any right to expect any of this. She'll definitely be a great mom someday. Jack walked down the hallway, deliberately provoking me. Every word he said felt like a needle piercing my heart, leaving me utterly agitated. I figured as much, I sneered sarcastically. Anthony's always been dying to be a dad. Enough already, okay? I don't care, I bit out through clenched teeth, trying hard to sound nonchalant. But inside, my anger was boiling over. Jack's constant taunts had pushed me to the brink of madness. He burst into laughter. Just as I took my first step forward, the sight before me made my heart skip a beat in an instant. She stood near the staircase, slightly distracted, talking softly to the little red-haired girl held in her arms. Then, the two of them laughed together. Her lips were painted a deep crimson, and a beautiful, genuine smile curved upward at the corners of her mouth, a smile so dazzling it almost blinded me. That scene stirred something strange within me, a fluttering sensation, yet more than that, a deep irritation. I wanted her to smile only for me, to show me that same tenderness, only for me. Miss Brown gently rocked the little girl in her arms, holding her close until she finally noticed our presence. The moment our eyes met, her smile vanished. "Daddy!" The adorable little girl, with bright blue eyes and freckled cheeks, screamed as soon as she spotted Jack. She had the same fiery red hair as Zara, but her eyes were just like her dad's. Jack stepped forward and pulled her into his embrace. "Come here, little princess. Let Auntie Ellie catch her breath. We've got plenty of energy left, haven't we, my little sunshine?" Miss Brown teased, tickling Sophia's tummy until she giggled uncontrollably. I simply couldn't believe what I was seeing. "All right, now it's time to meet your new uncle." Jack turned to me. "Say hello to Uncle Ethan." Sophia smiled shyly and rested her head against Jack's chest. "Hello there," she said, her bright eyes twinkling. My heart melted in an instant. "Hey, little one. I've been looking forward to meeting you so much," I said as I stepped closer. Jack gently set her down on the ground. I crouched down to meet her eye level, and she clung tightly to Jack's leg. "I brought you a gift, would you like to open it together with me?" She glanced up at Jack, then turned back to look at me after he nodded. Her curiosity was piqued, and she slowly began to move toward me. I opened the bag, and her eyes widened in wonder. First, I pulled out a set of colorful painting tools and explained to her how to use them. She listened intently, her face glowing with excitement. Then, I took out a giant rainbow lollipop, and her eyes lit up even more. After the presentation, I put everything back into the bag and handed it to her. She took the bag, then threw herself into my arms and hugged me tight. "Thank you, Uncle Ethan," she said, her sweet voice melting my heart. I smiled and hugged her back. Her way of calling my name was just so adorable. Just then, I noticed Miss Brown watching us, her eyes filled with the same look of surprise that I'd seen earlier when she'd been holding Sophia. "All right, would you like to show Mommy your gift?" Jack asked, lifting her up again. "Yes," the little one exclaimed happily. "She's definitely going to love the idea of painting all the walls." Jack squinted at me for a moment. "I think it's pretty fair," he replied with a grin, thinking to myself that this was, in its own small way, a bit of payback. He seemed to understand what I meant, and he walked away laughing heartily, Sophia tucked securely under his arm. It wasn't until then that I finally had a chance to focus all my attention on her. She was wearing a wine-colored, figure-hugging dress that accentuated her voluptuous curves and made her skin appear even paler. The delicate straps perfectly highlighted the graceful lines of her shoulders and chest. I felt an irresistible urge to step forward, kiss her neck, and trace my way down, imagining how my touch would make her skin flush with a soft blush. The hem of the dress ended just above her knees, revealing her slender legs, and she was wearing black stiletto heels, enough to make me wonder endlessly about what she'd look like wearing nothing but those shoes. Her hair was loose, with slightly curlier ends than usual. The meticulously crafted makeup and her overall ensemble suggested that she'd spent quite some time getting herself dressed up. Is she dressing up so carefully just to make a good impression on Anthony? As soon as this thought crossed my mind, the irritation inside me erupted like a volcano. Jealousy and possessiveness clung to me tightly, leaving me gasping for air. It felt as if she sensed that we'd been staring at each other for too long. She crossed her arms over her chest, turned away with a hint of superiority. I watched her retreating figure, my irritation and possessiveness mingling together in my heart. I wanted nothing more than to hoist her onto my shoulders, carry her off, and lock her away in a room where she'd have no choice but to look at me, and think only of me. Didn't your mother teach you any manners? I teased, making her stop in her tracks and turn around. What did you say? She asked, frowning in confusion. People with manners usually say, good evening. Can we just skip this whole step and I'll just say, go to hell to you? She shot back sarcastically, clearly showing that my provocation had worked. The deep red lipstick on her lips drew my full attention, reminding me of our previous entanglement. That memory was still so vivid enough to send my heart fluttering, but along with it came an even stronger sense of restlessness. I longed to have her again, yet I knew full well that I wasn't worthy of her. I took a step forward, and she didn't move. She only hesitated slightly as I approached. I stopped just a few inches away from her, our chests nearly touching. I noticed her breathing quicken, growing heavier and more labored. You're absolutely stunning today, I said, smiling softly as I gazed into her eyes, making her blink in confusion. I can't wait to take this dress off you, I whispered. She remained silent, her gaze locked on mine, her breath growing even more rapid. Just then, the doorbell rang. Damn it, Anthony, he really couldn't have picked a worse time to show up, interrupting the vibe between Ellie and me and only making my irritation and anger flare up even more. She remained silent, her gaze locked on mine, her breathing growing increasingly rapid. I could feel her desire for me, and a tiny spark of possessiveness in my heart was momentarily satisfied. But just then, the doorbell rang. Damn it, Anthony had to show up precisely at this moment, throwing all my emotions into disarray and leaving me so frustrated that I felt like cursing. Dream on, she hissed through clenched teeth, then turned around and headed toward the kitchen. I followed behind her, and along the way, I ran into Jack. He walked past me with a hint of an ambiguous smile on his face, clearly on his way to greet his guest. By the time we stepped into the kitchen, everyone seemed to be busy with something or other. Ethan, you owe me a brand new painting, Zara said, spotting me and holding Sophia close. I think we'd all better go greet Anthony, Zoe said, wriggling free from my brother's arms and heading toward the living room. As she passed by me, she gave me a teasing smile. Will and Anna followed close behind her. Zara stepped up to me and handed over Sophia, who was still intently licking the lollipop I'd given her. It's your turn to hold her for a bit. Ellie and I are going to touch up our makeup. With that, the two of them left, leaving me alone with Sophia and my brother. I placed Sophia on the kitchen counter, and the tension in my shoulders eased just a little. You can try to hide it, but I can see how tight your shoulders are, my brother said, his tone laced with playful teasing. I sighed and turned away irritably. There was something really uncomfortable about being so transparently red. Too bad, though, because of you, I can't exactly tell Uncle Bennett to get lost. I smiled at Sophia and wiped away a tiny sticky smudge from her cheek. She completely ignored me, just busy licking her lollipop. Need I remind you? I warned you ages ago. Now deal with it already, I'm off to find some fun. He walked past me, still wearing that grin on his face. Damn him. Who needs an enemy when you've got a brother who loves nothing more than watching others suffer? His teasing and gloating only made my irritation even worse. Looks like it's just the two of us now, I said to Sophia. After playing with her for a while, my irritation eased up a bit, but as soon as I thought about having to face whatever interaction might unfold between Anthony and Ellie, I felt utterly uncomfortable all over again. But what's meant to happen will happen, there's no escaping it. That sense of helplessness was driving me crazy. Everyone else was sitting on the couch, chatting away. Since the occasion calls for it, I'll hand Sophia back to Jack first, then head over to Anthony and say hello. Ethan Morgan, I offer, extending my hand, and immediately notice that everyone's eyes are fixed on us. Anthony Harrison. You must be Bennett's younger brother, just back from England, right? He says, shaking my hand. I nod in response. His grip is firm, and he's slightly shorter than me. He has dark hair and blue eyes. Not bad, he's fairly decent looking, dressed neatly, and has a good physique, but there's something unremarkable about him. I hope Ellie thinks so too, that he's utterly unremarkable. Maybe it's petty of me to think this way, but I can't help but deeply dislike him. He's trying to take Ellie away from me, to lay his hands on what belongs to me, and it makes me want to punch him hard and kick him out. The restlessness and anger inside me keep burning hotter and hotter. I sat on the sofa next to Jack, while Sophia tried to climb back onto my lap. At least she managed to distract me a little, making this situation just bearable. I held her on my lap and played with her, while the others chatted away. Meanwhile, I kept a close eye on every move and every word Anthony made. Though I hated to admit it, he really did seem like a nice guy, gentle, well-mannered, and charmingly articulate. That meant there was a real possibility that he and Ellie could hit it off, and just thinking about that sent a tight knot expanding in my throat, leaving me feeling suffocated, achy, and so restless that I almost lost control. Finally, Ellie walked into the room accompanied by Zara. Zara was the first to step forward and greet Anthony. When it was Ellie's turn, my body instantly tensed up, my heart began pounding wildly, a melange of irritation and nervousness swirling inside me. As Anthony drew closer, ready to kiss her cheek, I held my breath, my fists clenched tightly in my pocket. She gave him a genuine smile and greeted him in a loud, cheerful voice. At that moment, I found it kind of amusing. I knew she was doing it just to get back at me for calling her impolite earlier. But when I noticed Anthony taking the opportunity, while she was distracted, to scan her up and down, with an expression full of admiration and interest, my anger, which I'd been trying so hard to keep in check, suddenly boiled over. If Sophia hadn't been sitting on my lap, I probably would have already jumped up and punched him right in the face. That feeling of being coveted made me so agitated I felt like going crazy. Soon after, Zara led us into the dining room, where the table had already been set. My gaze seemed glued to Ellie, fixed on her, watching as she walked ahead of me with Anthony, listening to their soft conversation. She wore a smile on her face, showing genuine interest in everything he said. The irritation and jealousy welling up inside me were almost overwhelming. By the time I reached the dining table, only 3 seats remained empty. One was the main seat at the head of the table, reserved for Jack. He'd just stopped Anthony to chat, giving me an opening. The other 2 seats were next to Ellie, one on her right and the other directly across from her. I had to act fast. As I glanced down at Sophia in my arms, an idea struck me. Would you like to sit next to Aunt Ellie? I whispered to her. She nodded eagerly. Then if Mom asks, just tell her you'd rather sit with Uncle Ethan. She nodded again, her face glowing with contentment. Perfect. At least now I had an excuse. I walked over to Ms. Brown and sat down beside her. She raised an eyebrow briefly, then smiled warmly at Sophia. Sophia's the one who wanted to sit next to you, I said with a shrug. My little accomplice nodded happily on my lap. Time to sit with Mom, Zara said as she walked past me on my right, catching Sophia's attention and trying to pull her away. I want to sit with Uncle Ethan. Honey, Uncle Ethan is about to eat, her mom replied. It's okay, I reassured Zara. For the next 10 minutes, I felt as though I was being overwhelmed by a torrent of irritation, anger, regret, and hatred. I stared intently at Anthony, watching him flirt and chat with Ellie, talking about utterly trivial subjects, while Ellie laughed so happily. I kept picturing myself punching him in the face, just to relieve the mounting tension inside me. Meanwhile, Sophia had already slipped off my lap and returned to her mother's side. The conversation had shifted from Anthony's career and his failed marriage to his travel experiences, and even to his childhood. My patience was nearing its breaking point, watching Ellie casually answer every single question he asks about her life, and even proactively sharing her own experiences. I feel increasingly frustrated. She's never been this gentle with me before, and the contrast between how she treats him and how she used to treat me leaves me both heartbroken and furious. It seems like she's genuinely interested in him, and it's driving me crazy, especially when I see how softly and politely she behaves now, completely abandoning the playful, bold attitude she usually shows toward me. She's giving all her kindness and tenderness to someone else, and that makes me both agitated and jealous. I just want to pull her close and make her go back to being the old Ellie, the one who used to tease me mercilessly and act so boldly around me. Right now, I'm secretly watching her pick up her glass, take a sip, and then lick her lips. Just then, it seems I hear Anthony invite her to lunch together tomorrow. I stare at him, trying to make sure I didn't mishear. Of course, if you're free. He smiled softly, and the gentleness in his voice made me want to smash his teeth right then and there. I stared at him intently, my irritation and anger reaching a boiling point. I think just as she was about to respond, she suddenly gasped, because I'd placed my hand on her thigh, gently sliding it beneath the table. I could feel her body tense up instantly. No way, she said quietly. I began stroking lightly above her knee, then slowly moved upward, lifting the hem of her skirt and delicately tracing the soft skin beneath her fingertips. She cleared her throat and then gave my foot a little kick. So I slid my hand further inward, toward the inside of her thigh. Watching her breath grow faster and faster, my fingertips inching closer and closer to her underwear, I felt a wave of pleasure wash over me. She swallowed hard and took a deep breath. I'll just take a look at my schedule, she said, kicking my ankle lightly with the tip of her shoe, her voice tinged with a hint of panic. But I think I should be free. She actually said yes. The words felt like a bucket of gasoline poured onto the fire of anger burning inside me, immediately setting it ablaze. The fury surged through me like a tidal wave, and I couldn't help but give her thigh a sharp pinch, letting off some of the anger and frustration boiling within me. I wanted so badly to pull her away, to tell her firmly that this answer was wrong, that she belonged only to me. So I decided to teach her a little lesson with my fingertips, reminding her of what we'd once shared. But just as my fingertips brushed against her skin beneath her clothes and I realized she was already wet, she suddenly stood up, tugged at the hem of her skirt, and pulled away from my touch. Sorry, I've got to go to the restroom, she said, turning around and walking away from us. I really want to follow her, pin her against the wall, and make her understand that she can't flirt with other men in front of me or accept their invitations. But now everyone knows about our relationship, how could I possibly do something like that? Knowing full well that she's drawn to me yet still agreeing to go out with Anthony, it's this very contradiction that drives me even crazier. My heart feels as though it's been weighed down by a massive boulder, suffocating and throbbing with pain. After dinner, we gathered once again in the living room. For a single second, I couldn't take my eyes off Ellie. Watching her chat quietly with Anthony in the corner, far away from everyone else, their heads so close together, whispering secrets I can't even begin to imagine, I feel like I'm about to explode. The irritation and possessiveness swirling inside me are like two wild beasts, tearing at my sanity. Sophia had already gone to bed, leaving me with nothing more to distract me. Zoe stepped up in front of me. You know you're not very good at hiding it, don't you? She draped her arm over mine. Cut the crap, I said impatiently, picking up my glass and downing its contents in one gulp. The sharp burn of the whiskey eased my inner restlessness just a bit, but as soon as I thought about Ellie and Anthony's interaction, the irritation surged back again. I'm guessing things haven't turned out the way you'd hoped. What do you want? I sighed, trying hard to hold on to what little patience I had left. Being seen through so clearly, and thinking about Ellie, was pushing me to the brink of losing my temper altogether. I've got an invitation. An invitation? I shot her a skeptical look. Vacation's almost here, and we're heading out on a trip in a week. No way, I interrupted without even thinking twice. A trip? Staying with a bunch of couples, do I really have to watch Ellie and Anthony interact? Just thinking about it makes me so frustrated. I'm not interested. I'd rather just stay at the office and work, at least that'll help me forget these annoying things for a while. Let me finish what I'm saying. You think I'd actually want to go on a trip with you and my brother? We're all going, everyone. Everyone. All of us friends, including Neil and Jason. So not only would I have to put up with you and Bennett, but I'd also have to put up with 4 other couples, watching you two flaunt your love all over the place. I snorted and shook my head. Just imagining that scenario made me so agitated that there was no way I'd ever agree to it. Even though I miss my friends terribly, I could never in a million years go along with this crazy plan. Ellie's going too, she said, carefully studying my reaction. Of course she's going, she's gone completely bonkers, after all. I snorted quietly, but deep down I was feeling a bit panicked. If Ellie went, it meant I'd never get to see her again. The thought made me both agitated and uneasy. Who in their right mind would agree to go on a trip with 5 couples? Just think about it. You really need to relax. We all know you've been working way too hard. Thanks for your concern, but the answer is no. All right then, Zoe said casually, yet her words struck me like a bolt of lightning, leaving my head buzzing with shock. What? I shot up to look at her, unable to believe what I'd just heard. All at once, my irritation and anger flared up like wildfire. Damn it! She must be joking. Sending Anthony off on a trip with Ellie, spending an entire week alone together. There's no way I'd ever allow that. My growing frustration and fury were nearly overwhelming. Huh? You're saying you're not going? She shrugged her shoulders. I know exactly what you're up to. He's not even one of your so-called friends. Zoe knew full well that as long as I had a say, I'd never let Anthony get within a mile of Ellie. So her real goal was to use Anthony as leverage, forcing me to go on this trip. This woman is truly cunning. Thinking about it made me so frustrated that I just wanted to yell at her. You men are really impossible, she laughed out loud, then stepped right in front of me, crossed her arms over her chest, and pretended to be angry as she said, when I gave you the chance to spend a whole week with her, you said no. But as soon as another man gets involved, suddenly you want to prove who's better. Don't be such an asshole. Her words felt like a knife, hitting right at my core and leaving me both irritated and utterly powerless. If I refuse, will you really invite him anyway? I can't believe it, she's actually going to do this? Using Anthony to pressure me? This feeling of being manipulated is driving me crazy with frustration and anger, yet I'm utterly helpless. Yes, she said, dead serious. Damn it. I'm starting to think my family and friends have completely twisted their understanding of what helping really means. I bit my teeth together, my heart churning with irritation and resignation. They are not helping me at all, they're pushing me straight into a pit of trouble. I'll give you a few days to think it over, but don't take too long. I can't just invite Anthony in at the last minute. You're not serious, you? Absolutely serious. What does my brother think about this? I'm sure he'd never agree to let me get anywhere near Ellie. Don't worry about your brother. I know exactly how to handle him. Don't tell me the details. Just think it over carefully and make a decision fast. She kissed me on the cheek, then walked away with a satisfied smile. She knew she'd gotten her way. Zoe's manipulative skills are truly masterful. I'm not sure whether to admire my brother or feel sorry for him. The situation is bad enough as it is, and now I've got to worry about this damn trip, about Anthony and Ellie's relationship, and I'm so frustrated I feel like my head might explode. Still, it's not like there's absolutely no hope. I'd rather die than let Anthony go on that trip. There's no way I'd ever let him have a chance to spend an entire week alone with Ellie. Just thinking about that makes me feel a little calmer, easing some of the frustration and anger inside me. I stared intently at the two of them as they walked toward the crowd, whispering softly to each other. When Anthony announced he was leaving, sure enough, Ellie volunteered to walk him to his car. That gesture triggered another surge of irritation and fury in me. There's no way I'll let them be alone together. I would never, ever give this idiot any chance to get anywhere near Ellie. As soon as they stepped out the front door, I told everyone I was leaving too, I'd already made up my mind. "Oh, by the way, count me in for that trip," I said firmly to Zoe as I headed out. To protect Ellie and keep Anthony from getting any leverage, I put up with the annoyance and awkwardness of the trip, no matter what.